Good afternoon. Welcome to my CSC1014 programming project, Mastermind. In this presentation, I will go over the overview of the program, where I'll give a general explanation of how the program would work. Then I will further dive into the programming techniques, where I'll explain how I've used each of the techniques in the final program. Moving on to error handling, I will explain how the program would handle user errors and also how it would validate the data. 4 and 5, computational implementation of the program and problem-solving techniques, can be further seen in the demonstration afterwards. So how the program would work is it would create a randomly generated list from the list of fruits provided by me, and then the user is then prompted to enter his or her guesses, which is then appended to a separate list. The two lists are then compared against each other to identify which guesses are correct and which guesses are correct but in the wrong position as well. The final results are then displayed until the user until he or she gets all 4 fruits correct. Programming techniques, logic, and control flow. So the first programming technique implemented is the input and display data. The game starts with the display of the game rules. So a user who is not familiar with the game can quickly understand how the game would work. And then right after, the user is then prompted to enter his or her guesses individually, and the list of options is provided for convenience of the player. The second technique used is the list. Lists are used in many instances in this program, one of which is the user, where all the user input guesses will be stored in this list. We will have another list for the codemaster. That's where the randomly generated list will be stored. And thirdly, we have a duplicate list of the codemaster, which will be manipulated to calculate the number of fruits in the wrong position, which will be further seen in the demonstration. The if statements and relational and logical operations, this has been used throughout the program, but one instance of which is the comparison of the two lists. So if you can see in the screenshot in the center, the first index of the user list is compared with the first index of the codemaster list. If both of them are equal, then it will return as true, and then the program will proceed to execute the next few lines of code. The rand function, the random choice from a list. This technique is done through the function random choice. Once it is added to the list, it will append the randomly chosen selections into this new list. User-defined functions. In this program, I have created a function for the counter, because it was to enhance readability of the code. While loops and for loops were both used in this program as well. For while loops, it was used to run the program and exit when the criteria is met. And the for loop is used to iterate through the lists when comparing the fruits from the user list and the randomly generated list. Error handling and data validation. The program would only accept user input if it's part of the fruits list shown in line 46. And if incorrect data is entered, an error message will be printed and the user list will be cleared and prompted to re-enter the data again. Data validation. All input will be converted to lowercase using the .lower function in the event of user entering data in different cases. Thank you. We will now move on to the demonstration of the program. We will see here that we have assigned the variables and the empty lists to start with. It will then print out the welcome message for the user to read. The standard list of fruits will be appended to a new list called fruits. And to generate the random list of fruits, it will iterate 4 times through the fruits list and append a random value each time. A duplicate list is then created, which will then be used to later on. To generate the user list, it will run a while loop until the length of both lists will be equal. So it will append a user input until the lengths of both lists are the same. There is also data validation included, where if the input is not in the list fruits, it will print an error message and it will clear the list and prompt the user to start again. To assess whether the user's input is correct, we have 2 for loops where it will iterate 4 times, where the index of the user list will be compared against the index of the codemaster list. If both indexes are equal, it will increment correct through this user function, and it will remove that value from the duplicate list. This duplicate list is used to calculate the correct fruits in the wrong position. In the second for loop will be used to calculate the correct fruits in the wrong position, where first it will check if the index of the user list is in the duplicate list. If so, it will count both lists and run the counter otherwise. In this example, we'll take this one here. If the count of both the index of the user list and is equal to the count of the index of the duplicate list, it will increment the correct root in the wrong position. This will run 4 times until we get the final result. And based on that, if the correct counter is not equal to 4, it will print the error message and also give the hints to the final user. And then the user can try again. And it clears the list, so it will start fresh all over again. But the attempts will be counted. When the user gets all 4 guesses correct, it will end the loop, and then it will print the final message stating how many attempts it took.